My daughter said, "The best gift would be if you just died." So I decided to cancel the funding. Transcript. It was my daughter Rebecca's 45th birthday, and I arrived early at her house carrying the cake I had ordered specially from her favorite bakery. It cost $200, but for my only child, nothing was too costly. I knocked on the door with a smile, expecting her face to brighten up, just as it always did when she was a little girl. However, when she opened the door, her face showed only irritation. "Oh, it's you," she muttered without even looking at me. "Happy birthday, my love," I said, holding out the cake with the candles already on top. "I brought your favorite chocolate with strawberries, just like when you were a kid." Rebecca exhaled heavily, as if my gift was an annoying inconvenience. "Mom, we need to talk," she said coldly, letting me inside without so much as a thank you for the cake. We sat in the living room of her beautiful home, a house I had fully paid for when she and David got married. It had cost me $50,000, which I took from my savings, money I had carefully saved, working double shifts as a nurse for 4 decades. "You know, Mom," Rebecca started in that cold tone she had developed over the past few years, "I've been thinking a lot about my birthday, about presents, and about what would truly make me happy." I nodded eagerly. "Of course, my love. Just tell me what you want, and I'll get it for you." "A trip, some jewelry, maybe that new car you mentioned." Rebecca looked directly at me, and what I saw there made my stomach tighten. It was pure disdain. "The one thing I'd love most as a birthday gift," she said slowly, savoring each word, "is for you to just die." Everything around me seemed to freeze. I felt as if someone had suddenly torn my heart right out of my chest. Her words echoed in my mind repeatedly, like a never-ending loop. My daughter, my own flesh and blood, once wished for my death as a birthday gift. "What? Did I just hear you right?" I whispered, tears welling up in my eyes. "You heard me," she replied coldly, her words cutting through me like sharp knives. "I'm tired of you, Mom. Tired of your constant calls, unexpected visits, of you always being here, bothering me. My life would be so much easier and happier if you would just go away," she said. My hands trembled uncontrollably. 72 years of living, 45 years of being her mother, and I never imagined I would hear those words from her lips. I managed to say through my sobs, "Rebecca, I am your mother. I gave you everything. I sacrificed everything for you." That's when she interrupted, standing up from the sofa. "And that's why you're suffocating me," she said. "I can't breathe with you always there. I need freedom. I need you to let me live my life without your drama and emotional demands." The $200 cake was still in my hands, with the candles starting to melt. Everything I had hoped for that day, hugs, laughter, perhaps a family dinner, disappeared like smoke. But I tried once more. I only wanted to be close to you, to be part of your life. "You're all I have." "And that," she replied, crossing her arms, "is the problem. The fact that I'm all you have. Go find a life of your own and leave me alone." I got up from the sofa, my legs trembling, holding the cake that now felt like a mockery. "I can't believe you're saying this to me," I whispered, "after everything I've done for you." "Everything you've done?" she said with a sarcastic laugh. "Mom, everything you've done has been for your own benefit, to feel needed, to control my life. But I'm not a little girl anymore." I moved toward the door, feeling as if each step was taking years off my life. As I reached the door, I turned for one final glance, hoping to catch a hint of regret in her eyes or some sign of the sweet young girl she once was. But all I saw was impatience. Impatience for me to leave so she could finally enjoy her birthday without my presence bothering her. "Happy birthday, Rebecca," I whispered softly. Then I stepped outside, closing the door gently behind me. I didn't realize then that it would be the last time I would enter that house as the mother who had given up so much. What my daughter didn't know was that her words had awakened something in me that had been sleeping for many years. I reached my small apartment with my legs trembling and my heart heavy. The cake I had bought for $200 was soon thrown away. The melted candles reflected my tears, which refused to stop falling. I sat quietly on my old sofa, the same one where I had gently rocked Rebecca as a baby, where I had read her stories for many years, and where I had often shed tears of joy whenever she called me Mom. How did I end up here? How could my own daughter, the child I carried in my womb for 9 months, wish me dead with such coldness? I started to recall everything, the many sacrifices I had made for her over the past 45 years. When she was just 3 and caught pneumonia, I worked 3 jobs at the hospital to afford her medication. It was $1,200 for antibiotics that my insurance didn't cover. I paid for it with money I had saved from selling my late mother's jewelry. When she turned 16 and wanted to go to the prom, I dedicated entire weekends over 4 months to buy her a pink dress that cost $800. I remember how her eyes lit up when she tried it on. "Thank you, Mom. You're the best in the world," she had said, hugging me so tightly. In college, when she changed her major for the 3rd time, I paid for every semester without a single complaint, a total of $42,000. I got that money by taking out a second mortgage on my house. "Don't worry, honey," I would tell her every time she called, crying. "Your education is the most important thing." When she married David, I arranged and paid for the entire wedding, costing $35,000 so she could have the wedding she dreamed of. The most elegant ballroom in the city, the finest flowers, the menu she selected without concern for the price. I told her I wanted my princess to have everything, as I signed check after check. And then came the house, the very house where she had just humiliated me. When Rebecca and David decided to buy their first home, I didn't hesitate for a moment. "Don't worry about the down payment," I told them. "I'll take care of it." It was $150,000 from my savings, the money I had set aside for my retirement, but it didn't end there. When the twins arrived 5 years ago, I became the free babysitter. Every night, Rebecca wanted to go out with David. Whenever they had plans and needed someone to watch the kids, I was there, never asking for a penny, happy to help my daughter enjoy the life she had always hoped for. Last year, when David lost his job, who paid the mortgage for 8 months? It was me. I used $16,000 from my pension, money that meant I had to eat rice and beans for many weeks just to make ends meet. And when the twins needed braces, I paid another $4,000 without hesitation. I told them not to worry, seeing their worried faces. That's what grandparents do. I got up from the sofa and went to my desk, where I kept all the receipts, proof of every single dollar I had spent on my daughter and her family. They were boxes full of documents I had kept, not out of mistrust, but because it made me feel proud to remember everything I had been able to do for them. I began to do the math, calculating what I spent on Rebecca from the day she was born until she was independent, about $200,000. College costs, $42,000. The wedding, $35,000. The down payment on the house, $150,000. The mortgage payments while David was out of work came to $16,000. The braces for the twins cost $4,000. Over the years, the birthday and Christmas gifts added up to at least another $10,000. The total was overwhelming, more than $460,000, nearly $500,000 I had invested in my daughter's happiness. And all of it, just to hear that her greatest wish was for me to die. Tears blurred my sight as I added and subtracted those amounts. If I had put that money into a savings account with compound interest, today I would have more than $600,000. I could be living in a comfortable house, traveling around the world, or enjoying a peaceful retirement instead of counting every penny in this small apartment. But I chose to invest my love instead. I believed that the money spent on my daughter was truly well spent. I thought that every sacrifice was worth it because, in the end, I would have a daughter who loved me and would care for me in my old age. How foolish I had been. I reached for the phone and dialed Rebecca's number. I needed to hear her voice once more. I needed to confirm whether she truly had spoken those harsh words to me. "What do you want now, Mom?" she answered with irritation after the 5th ring. "Rebecca, I need to know if what you said to me today was real," I said, voice trembling. "Of course I meant it," she answered without any sign of regret. "Mom, it's time for you to understand that I need some space. Your constant obsession with me isn't healthy." "Obsession?" I repeated, feeling surprised. "You might call a mother's love an obsession." "Yes, that's exactly what it is. I hope that after today, you will finally understand. I need you to respect my boundaries and allow me to live my own life." I hung up the phone without saying goodbye. There was no misunderstanding. My daughter truly believed that my love was a burden, that my presence in her life was a problem she needed to fix. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, recalling every beautiful moment we had shared, every hug, every "I love you, Mom," that had come from her lips. Had it all been a lie, or had I simply raised a daughter who had become so self-centered that she couldn't see beyond her own needs? At 3 o'clock in the morning, something shifted inside me. The sadness started to turn into something different, into anger, into indignation, into the clear realization that I had been used, manipulated, and thrown aside like a worn-out tissue. My daughter wanted me gone. Perhaps it was time to give her exactly what she desired. The following day, I woke up feeling a clarity of mind I hadn't known in years. The sadness had transformed into something stronger. Resolve. If my daughter wanted me out of her life, I would go, but not in the way she expected. I dressed carefully and left with a clear plan. My first stop was the bank, where I had a joint account with Rebecca for emergency expenses related to her house. That account was something I'd set up just in case, with a deposit of $20,000 for unexpected situations. "Good morning, Mrs. Johnson." The manager, Mr. Martinez, greeted me, familiar after many years. "How can I assist you today?" "I want to close joint account number 458728891, I said with a smile that he took as friendly, but which was really driven by strong revenge. "Are you sure? That account holds a significant amount. $20,000, he warned, glancing at his computer screen. "I am completely certain. I want to transfer all of that money to my personal account," I said, signing the paper steadily. Seeing the $20,000 go back into my account brought a sense of satisfaction I hadn't experienced in years. But that was only the start. Next, I headed to the mortgage loan office. Over the past year, while David was out of work, I had co-signed their mortgage. That meant if they couldn't make the payments, I was responsible. At the same time, it gave me rights to the property. Mrs. Johnson, the loan officer, and Ms. Williams greeted me. "What brings you here today?" she asked. I explained, "I want to review the mortgage agreement where I am listed as a co-signer. I need to understand precisely what my rights and duties are." As she searched for the documents, I thought back to the day I signed those papers. Rebecca had cried, full of emotion. "Thank you, Mom. I don't know what we'd do without you." "You're our savior," she had said, hugging me tightly. David also thanked me, promising that they would never have late payments. "Here are the documents," Ms. Williams said, placing a thick folder in front of me. "As a co-signer, you are responsible for the payments if the primary holders cannot make them. But you also have the right to reclaim the property if you believe the debtors won't be able to meet their obligations." "Exactly," I agreed, carefully examining the papers. "Is there an issue with the payments?" she asked with a professional tone. I replied, "I am reviewing the situation," as I put a copy of all the documents into my bag. "What would I need to do if I decided to exercise my rights as co-signer?" She explained, "You would have to show that there is a risk of default or that there have already been significant delays. In your case, I see that you covered 8 months of payments last year, which is enough proof that the primary holders lack financial stability." Perfect. David lost his job again last week. It was information Rebecca had given me without considering the consequences. She thought she was asking for help in a subtle way, but what she was really doing was handing me the tools for revenge. I walked out of that office with a smile. My dear daughter had no idea about the storm that was gathering. The third stop was my personal lawyer, Mr. Anel Adams, a man of 70 who had been a friend of my late husband's. He knew my entire family history and had seen the sacrifices I made for Rebecca over the years. Julieta greeted me warmly. "What brings you to my office? It's not often I see you here." "Anel, I need your help with something very important," I told him, sitting down in front of his desk. "I want to completely change my will." His eyebrows shot up in surprise. "Has something happened with Rebecca?" I explained everything, every hurtful word, each moment of disdain, the cold way she wished for my death on her own birthday. Anel listened quietly as I spoke, his face growing more serious with each detail I shared. Finally, he said, "Julieta, I am truly sorry for what you're going through. I never imagined Rebecca could do something like that after everything you've done for her." "I felt the same way," I replied with a sigh. "But I have made my choice. I want to change my will and leave everything to a charitable organization. I also want to create a trust fund for my grandchildren, but Rebecca will not have access to that money until they turn 25. "That can be arranged," Anel agreed, nodding as he took notes. "Do you also want to change the beneficiaries of your life insurance?" "Yes. Anything that has Rebecca's name on it, I want to update. My daughter wishes I were gone, but when I do pass away, she will not receive a single cent from me. We spent 2 hours going through all my legal papers, my $100,000 life insurance policy, my savings, my apartment, and my investments. Everything that was once meant for Rebecca would now be donated to the Orphans Foundation, where I had volunteered for many years. There's something else, I said toward the end. I want you to arrange all the paperwork to reclaim the house where Rebecca lives. As a co-signer on the mortgage, I have the legal right to do so. Her husband has just lost his job again. Enel's eyes lit up with understanding. Now I see where you're headed. Are you sure you want to go that far? I am completely sure, I answered with a firmness that even surprised me. My daughter told me her life would be easier if I disappeared. Well, I am going to disappear, but first, I will make sure she fully understands what living without me and everything I've done for her really means. When I left Enel's office, it was already dark. I strolled through the streets of my neighborhood, feeling a sense of renewal, as if I had awakened from a very long dream. For 45 years, I had lived for Rebecca. I had given up my own dreams and desires to provide her with everything she wanted, but now that was over. I returned to my apartment and poured myself a glass of wine, something I hadn't done in many years. Celebrating myself was a new experience, but it felt wonderfully freeing. I took out my phone and dialed a number I had saved months earlier, but had never dared to call. It was for a travel agency that specialized in retirement packages for those wishing to live abroad. "Good evening. This is Julietta Johnson," I said when they answered. "I saw your advertisement about living in Switzerland. Could you send me full details?" "Certainly, Mrs. Johnson. Switzerland is a very popular destination among our clients. We offer a variety of programs, from temporary stays to permanent residency. What kind of information do you need?" "Everything," I answered without hesitation. "I want to know everything about how a 72-year-old person can begin a new life in Switzerland," she said. After she hung up, I stood by the window, gazing out at the city where I had spent my entire life. Soon, all of this would become just a memory. My daughter had asked for my disappearance as a birthday gift, and I was determined to give it to her in the most unforgettable way. What Rebecca didn't realize was that her wish was about to turn into her worst nightmare. The following days were a whirlwind of emotions and quiet preparations. Each morning, I woke up feeling a mix of pain and resolve that kept me moving forward with my plan. It felt as if I had awakened from a long sleep, during which I had only lived to make my daughter happy. Now I was finally living for myself. On Wednesday morning, my phone rang. It was Rebecca. For a moment, my heart quickened, thinking she might have changed her mind or hoped to apologize for the harsh words she had spoken. How naive I still was. "Mom," she said in that cold tone she had recently adopted, "I need you to do me a favor." She didn't say hello or ask how I was. She went straight to the point, as if I were her personal assistant. "What do you need?" I asked, curious to see how far her boldness would go. "The twins have a presentation at school on Friday, and David and I have an important work dinner. Could you watch them that evening?" The irony was almost too much to bear. The same woman who had wished for my death as a birthday gift was now asking me to look after her children as if nothing had happened, as if I were a resource available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. "I can't," I replied quietly. "What do you mean you can't?" she asked, genuinely surprised. Clearly, she wasn't used to me saying no. "I have other plans," I said with a smile she couldn't see. "What plans could you possibly have?" she asked with that dismissive tone that hurt me deeply, as if at 72 years old I didn't have the right to live my own life. "Plans that are nobody's business but mine," I responded calmly. "Find another sitter." "But Mom, I can't find a sitter on such short notice. Besides, since when do you charge me to watch your own grandchildren?" There it was, the emotional manipulation she had used on me for years. But this time it wouldn't work. "Since you told me that your greatest gift would be for me to die," I answered coldly, "if you want me to vanish from your life, I will start now." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Finally, Rebecca let out a sarcastic laugh. "Seriously, you're going to punish me like you're a little kid," she said. I thought the drama would end after a few days. "But it's not drama, Rebecca. It's respect for your wishes. You wanted me to disappear, so that's what I'll do." "Fine," she said with irritation. "If you want to act so childishly, that's your choice. But don't come crying later when you feel lonely." She ended the call without saying goodbye. Perfect. Every time we spoke, it reminded me I was making the right choice. That afternoon, I returned to the bank to do something I never imagined I would do. I withdrew most of my savings in cash. The amount was $30,000, which I placed into an envelope and kept safe in my personal safe, the money I needed for my new life in Switzerland. I also contacted the travel agency to confirm my plans. I booked a flight to Zurich for the following Tuesday with the option to stay as long as I wanted afterward. The initial cost was $5,000, a sum I paid without hesitation. It was the most costly and smartest investment I had made in years. On Thursday morning, someone unexpectedly dropped by. It was my neighbor, Elvira, a 68-year-old woman who lived in the apartment next door and with whom I had become friends over the past 5 years. "Giulietta," she said, sitting in my living room with a cup of coffee. "You look different these days." Has something happened? Elvira had watched silently as I made sacrifices for Rebecca. She had seen me cancel plans with her to rush to my daughter's side whenever she needed help. She had observed me buying expensive food to take to Rebecca, while I ate canned soup to save money. I shared everything with her, every painful detail about what had happened on Rebecca's birthday, and about the plans I had been making during the week. "My goodness, Giulietta," Elvira murmured, her eyes filled with tears. "I can't believe Rebecca would say something so harsh to you after all you've done for her." "The worst part is that she said it as if it were the most normal thing in the world," I explained, "as if I were a bother in her life that needed to be gone." "And you're really going to Switzerland?" "Yes," I answered confidently. "I already bought the ticket. I plan to leave on Tuesday." Elvira gently took my hands. "You know you have my full support, right? What Rebecca did to you is unforgivable." "There's something else," I said softly, lowering my voice. "I'll need your help with something very important." I explained my entire plan, how I wanted Rebecca to think I had truly died, at least for a little while. Elvira would be my partner in this, the one to find my empty apartment and my farewell letter. "That's a brilliant idea," Elvira whispered with a playful smile. "That ungrateful girl is finally going to understand what it means to lose you. Will you help me?" "Absolutely. In fact, I believe it's exactly what Rebecca needs to wake up." That night, I focused on writing the most important letter of my life, the letter that Rebecca would find on her table and that would change everything forever. I carefully wrote and rewritten every word, ensuring it expressed precisely what I wanted to say. "My dear Rebecca," the letter began, "you asked me, as a birthday gift, to disappear from your life, and I have decided to grant your wish. When you read this letter, I will already be far away, beginning the life I should have been living years ago instead of giving up everything for you." I kept writing for hours, listing every penny I had spent on her, every sacrifice I had made, and every opportunity I had missed by always being available for her needs. But my letter was not filled with bitterness. It was meant to teach a lesson. I wanted her to understand exactly what she had lost. "Along with this letter, you will find all the legal documents I signed this week," I continued. "The change of will, the cancellation of the health insurance I paid for, the notice that, as the co-signer of your mortgage, I have decided to exercise my rights because of David's job instability, and the discontinuation of all the financial benefits you receive from me." It was a detailed 23-page letter explaining everything that would change in her life now that I was no longer part of it, just as she had wanted. "Your life will be much easier without me," the letter concluded, "but it will also be much more costly. I hope it's worth it." On Friday night, while I was packing my most vital belongings into 2 suitcases, Rebecca called. I didn't answer. She called 3 more times, but I simply let the phone ring. I had nothing more to say to her. The following day, Saturday, David came to my door. He looked worn out and desperate. "Giulietta," he said softly, "Rebecca told me what happened between you two. I understand she said something wrong, but please don't do this to our family." "Do what?" I asked, pretending to be innocent. "Stop helping us. Just withdraw from our lives like this. The kids need you. We need you." How interesting. When Rebecca wanted to get rid of me, I was a nuisance. But once they saw everything I did for them, suddenly they needed me. "David," I said calmly, "your wife made it very clear to me. My presence in her life is a burden she no longer wants to carry. I am simply respecting her wishes. But, Giulietta, you know how Rebecca is when she gets upset. She didn't mean it." "Oh, she didn't?" Because she sounded quite convincing when she wished for my death as a birthday gift. David lowered his head. He knew he had no way to defend the indefensible. "Please," he begged, "give me a chance to fix this. I'll talk to Rebecca. I'll make her understand how wrong she is." "It's too late for that," I replied as I slowly closed the door. "Give my grandchildren a kiss for me. Sunday was my final day in that city. I spent the morning visiting the places that had been meaningful in my life. The hospital where I worked for 40 years, the park where I had taken Rebecca as a child, and the church where I married her father. It was my quiet farewell to a life I had dedicated entirely to others. The next day, I would start a new chapter, one that I would finally live for myself. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was nervous or filled with regret, but because I felt a strange emotion I hadn't experienced in many years: anticipation for an adventure. At 72 years old, I was about to begin the life I had always dreamed of, but had never dared to pursue. At 5 in the morning, Elvivara came to my door as we had planned. She brought fresh coffee and a smile that uplifted my spirit. "Are you ready for your great escape?" she asked, winking. "More than ready," I answered, carrying my 2 suitcases to the door. "Do you have the spare keys to my apartment?" "Here they are," she said, showing me the set of keys I had given her the night before. "And I also have the letter for Rebecca and all the legal documents you're going to leave on her table." We had planned everything carefully. Elvivara would wait until Wednesday to go to Rebecca's apartment and hand over the documents, pretending that she had found my apartment empty and become worried about my disappearance. She would be the one to tell Rebecca that I was gone forever. "Remember," I said, as we called a cab, "you need to act very worried. Tell her I didn't answer the phone for 2 days, that you knocked on my door and I didn't respond, and that when you used the emergency keys, you found the apartment empty and the letter on her table. Don't worry, Julieta. I was a drama teacher for 30 years. This will be the performance of my life," Elva said with a mischievous smile. The cab arrived right on time at 6 o'clock in the morning. As they packed my suitcases, I cast one last glance at my apartment. I had lived there for 15 years, yet strangely, I didn't feel any nostalgia. It was as if I was finally breaking free from a prison I had created myself. "To the airport?" the cab driver asked. "Yes, to the airport," I confirmed, and I felt those 2 words signified the start of a new chapter in my life. During the 40-minute ride, my thoughts drifted to everything I was leaving behind: my volunteer work at the hospital, my daily routines, and the constant worry about Rebecca and her struggles. But I also thought about what awaited me ahead: the freedom to make my own choices, to spend my money as I wished, and to live without the ongoing emotional burden of my daughter's demands. At the airport, while waiting for my flight, I received 3 calls from Rebecca that I didn't pick up. Soon after, I saw a text message come through. "Mom, you're being ridiculous. The children are asking about you. Please give me a call." I saw your message and didn't reply. It was interesting to notice that now, since I wasn't available all the time, she suddenly needed my presence. The trip to Zurich was long but calm. For the first time in many years, no one knew my whereabouts. No one called to ask for favors, money, or help with time. That feeling of freedom was addictive, something I hadn't experienced since before I became a mother. During the 12-hour flight, I kept a journal, writing down everything that had happened in the past week. Every detail, every feeling, every choice that brought me to that point. I wanted to be sure I remembered how it felt to free myself from a toxic relationship, even when that relationship was with my own daughter. I arrived in Zurich on Tuesday night local time. An agent from the travel agency was waiting at the airport, holding a sign with my name on it. He was a young, friendly man named Klaus who spoke fluent English. "Mrs. Johnson." He greeted me warmly with a sincere smile. "Welcome to Switzerland. I hope you're ready for a new adventure." "More than ready," I replied. For the first time in weeks, my smile felt truly genuine. Klaus took me to a lovely furnished apartment in the heart of Zurich that he had rented for a month while I decided whether I wanted to stay permanently. It was small but inviting, with windows that looked out onto a beautiful park and offered a partial view of the lake. "Here is all the information about the city," Klaus said, handing me a thick folder. It included places to eat, activities suited for people your age, German classes, and social groups. "I also have a meeting arranged for you with a financial advisor tomorrow afternoon to help with the paperwork, should you decide to stay permanently." That night, I slept better than I had in years. There were no phones ringing, no one needing anything from me, and no responsibilities beyond taking care of myself. On Wednesday morning, I woke early and set out to explore the city. I enjoyed breakfast at a cozy cafe by the lake. I also bought fresh flowers to brighten up my temporary apartment. For the first time in many years, I spent money on something entirely unnecessary. A lovely silk scarf that cost 100. I purchased it simply because I liked it, without worrying about the price or whether that money could be better used for my daughter's needs. As I strolled through the streets of Zurich, I estimated how much money I'd spent on Rebecca over the past 5 years. Between the mortgage payments during David's unemployment, the braces for the twins, the many gifts, the gas to visit the children, and the food I always brought when I visited, it added up to at least $50,000. That amount could have been used for traveling the world, living more comfortably, or pursuing the dreams I had put off for so long. Instead, I had given it to a daughter who saw my love as a burden and my presence as a bother. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Zurich time, I calculated that it would be 8 o'clock in the morning where I come from. Elvra was likely getting ready to go to Rebecca's apartment to deliver the letter that would change everything. I sat on a bench by the lake and waited patiently. I knew that in a few hours my phone would start ringing urgently. Rebecca would finally realize what it truly meant to lose me. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, my phone began to vibrate. It was Rebecca. I let it ring until it stopped. Immediately, it began to ring again. Once more, Rebecca. This time, I answered. "Mom," she cried out, her voice trembling, "where are you?" "Elvra came to the house with a letter from you. She said, 'You've disappeared.'" "What's going on?" I responded calmly, enjoying the view of the Swiss lake as I spoke. "Did you read the letter yet?" "Yes, I read it. Are you crazy? How could you do this to us?" "Where are you?" "I am exactly where I need to be," I answered. "Far away from you, just as you wanted. But I didn't want this. I didn't want you to really leave. I was just angry. I didn't mean it." That's how she always behaved, minimizing the hurt she caused, trying to make me feel guilty for reacting to her cruelty. "You didn't really mean it when you told me your greatest birthday wish was for me to die." I asked her because you sounded so convincing. I was just frustrated. David lost his job again. The children are causing problems at school. I am so stressed. I shouldn't have taken it out on you. You're right. You shouldn't have. But it's done, and words can't be taken back. But Mom, please come back. We need you. I need you. How interesting. Now she needed me. Now that she had read the letter about all the financial benefits she had lost. Now that she knew she could lose her house. Now she understood she would have to pay for her own health insurance and find a sitter for the twins. "Do you need me, or do you need my money?" I asked her directly. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "I need you," she finally murmured, but her voice didn't sound convincing. "Rebecca, for 45 years, I lived for you. I sacrificed my dreams, my money, my time, my opportunities. And when I finally needed to feel that you loved me and valued me, you told me you'd rather I was dead. Those words broke my heart in a way I will never be able to fix. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry." "Sorry is not enough, Rebecca. The damage is done. And you know what? Maybe it was the best thing you could have said to me because it finally opened my eyes and made me understand that I've been living my life all wrong." "What do you mean?" "I mean that for the first time in decades, I am living for myself and it feels wonderful." "Where are you, Mom?" "Please tell me," Rebecca begged, her voice thick with tears. "The children are asking about their grandma. They don't understand why you haven't come to see them." It was striking how, now that I wasn't available, the grandchildren suddenly missed me. For all those years when I canceled plans to watch them, when I bought them expensive gifts or took them to the park while Rebecca went shopping, it was simply what was expected of me. But now that I was gone, my absence was deeply felt. "The kids will be fine," I answered, gazing at the Swiss mountains far away. "They are strong. What they need to learn is that actions have consequences and that words said out of anger can damage relationships forever. But Mom, please, you can't just disappear like this." "What if something happens to you? What if you become ill? How will we know?" Now she was worried about my health. How convenient. "Rebecca, over the past 5 years, I have suffered 3 episodes of high blood pressure that required hospital stays. Do you know how many times you visited me?" "None. You always had something more urgent to attend to. So don't come to me now with concerns about my health." "That's not true," she weakly protested. "It is," I answered. "The first time I was admitted, I called you from the emergency room. You told me you couldn't come because you had a hair appointment. The second time was David's birthday and you were celebrating. The third time, you simply didn't answer the phone." The silence on the other end of the line made it clear she remembered every single occasion clearly. "I thought it wasn't serious," she whispered. "Of course, because my health was never your priority." "But my checkups were." "It's not about the money," Rebecca shouted. "It's about you." "I miss you, Mom. Do you miss me, or do you just miss having someone available all the time to fix your problems? I hung up the phone without waiting for a reply. It immediately rang again, but this time I turned it off completely. I needed some quiet to enjoy my first night of freedom. That evening, I dined alone at a fancy restaurant by the lake. I ordered the most costly dish on the menu, salmon with caviar that cost $80, and I drank an entire bottle of French wine. It had been years since I treated myself to such luxury, always thinking that the money could be better spent on Rebecca. The next day, Thursday, I turned my phone back on and saw 47 missed calls and 23 text messages, all from Rebecca and David. The messages went from please to threats. Please, Mom, answer. The first message read, "We're so worried." The fifth one said, "If you don't answer, we will call the police." The 10th message was a threat saying, "We already called the police. They said there was nothing they could do because you left a letter explaining your departure." The 15th one admitted it. "The bank called us. You closed the joint account. How will we manage emergencies now?" The 20th one said, "It was heartwarming to see concern for my well-being quickly turn into panic over the financial consequences of my absence." I decided to respond to just one message. I said, "I'm fine. I am exactly where I need to be. Don't try to find me." The reply came in less than 5 minutes. "You don't understand what you're doing. You're going to ruin us." The mortgage lawyer called us. He told us you could take our house. And there it was. The truth. She wasn't worried that I might be suffering or in danger. Her concern was because she had finally grasped the financial consequences of losing me. I replied, "Now you see what I am worth to you. Too bad you only realized it too late." That afternoon, I met with a Swiss financial advisor. His name was Herr Meyer, a seasoned and very professional man who helped me understand all my options for obtaining permanent residency in Switzerland. He explained that with my current savings and my American pension, I could live comfortably here for the rest of my life. Switzerland offers excellent medical care programs for retired foreigners, and the overall quality of life is outstanding. For the first time in many years, I was able to speak honestly about my finances without the fear of saving money for Rebecca's emergencies. It felt freeing to estimate my expenses based only on my own needs and wishes. Herr Meyer also added that I could invest part of my savings into the Swiss economy, as the returns are steady and secure. He mentioned that in 5 years, I could potentially double my assets if I made wise investments. Double my assets. How many times had I missed such opportunities? Yet, in the past, I preferred to spend the money on my daughter's whims and desires. Is there anything else I should share with you? The advisor responded, "Many of our clients are in situations similar to yours. Older individuals who have come to Switzerland seeking a fresh start after difficult family issues. You are not alone in this experience." That thought brought me great comfort. I realized I was not the only mother who had been manipulated and left behind by ungrateful children. There was a whole community of people who chose their own happiness over the toxic expectations of their families. On a Friday morning, I joined a hiking group for older adults. There were 8 women and 4 men, all between the ages of 60 and 75, eager for adventure and new experiences. During the bus ride, I started talking with a woman named Ingrid, a 71-year-old woman from Germany who had moved to Switzerland 2 years earlier. "What brought you here?" she asked me as we watched the scenic landscape through the window. "A daughter once told me that her greatest birthday wish was for me to die." I replied honestly and without holding back. I no longer had the strength to hide the truth. Ingrid looked at me with wide eyes. "Really? Completely serious," I added. After financing her house, practically raising her children, and sacrificing my retirement for her needs, she told me that my presence in her life was an unbearable burden. Ingrid sighed softly. "And what did you do?" she asked. "What?" I responded. "I simply disappeared from her life, and now I am here." Ingrid smiled with admiration. "You are very brave." It took me 5 years to decide to walk away from my toxic family. My son and daughter-in-law treated me like an ATM on legs. Throughout that day, Ingrid and I shared our stories. She had moved to Switzerland after realizing that her adult children only contacted her when they needed money for their vacations, new cars, or their whims. When she chose to set boundaries, others accused her of being a selfish mother and threatened to block her from seeing her grandchildren. The first few months were challenging. Ingrid admitted this as we strolled through an old medieval town. Guilt weighed heavily on me. I wondered if I was truly selfish, thinking that a good mother should always put her children first and make sacrifices. I asked her what changed her viewpoint. She replied, "I realized that my children never wondered if I was happy, if I had enough money for my own needs, or if my constant sacrifices were harming me. They only cared about what I could give them." That's not love, Julieta. That's exploitation. Her words struck a chord deep inside me. For many years, I had mistaken emotional manipulation for real love, constant demands for true needs. That night, in my apartment, I decided to turn on my phone for the first time in several days. I saw I had 62 missed calls and 47 text messages. Most of the messages were from Rebecca and David, but I also received some from unknown numbers. I read the texts in the order they were sent, watching how my daughter's panic grew over time. The earliest messages were still emotional, pleading, "Please, Mom, please come back. We need you. The kids are crying for you." As days went on, her words became more desperate and focused on money. The bank contacted us about a meeting scheduled for Friday. They explained that, as the co-signer, I had the right to reclaim the house. They assured us they couldn't take our home over a simple misunderstanding. By the 5th day, her messages grew aggressive. "This is ridiculous, Mom. You're destroying our lives over a tantrum. Grow up and come home," she wrote, and eventually she was just begging for me to return. "I reached out to all the hospitals, the police, and your friends. Nobody knew where you were. If anything happened to you, I knew it would be my fault. Please, just tell me you're safe." It was striking how, at no point, did Rebecca sincerely apologize for wishing I was dead. She never acknowledged the cruelty of her words or showed genuine regret. It all centered on how her life was affected by my absence. I decided to send one last message. "I am doing well and feeling happier than I have in years. What you are going through now are the natural results of your actions. I hope this experience helps you see the importance of the people you love before it's too late with others in your life." The reply came immediately. "Please, Mom, we can fix this. I promise I will never say such terrible things again. Just come back." I wrote my final reply. "Empty promises don't fix broken hearts. Rebecca, the words you told me showed what you truly think of me. You cannot undo that truth with desperate promises." After I sent the message, I blocked her number and all the numbers connected to David. I also blocked the unknown callers who had been ringing me. It was time to close that chapter for good. On Monday morning, I met once again with Herrmeyer to sign the papers that would allow me to settle permanently in Switzerland. I also arranged to transfer my American pension permanently and started the process of selling my apartment back in my hometown. "Are you sure you want to make this your permanent home?" Herrmeyer asked me. "It's a very big decision." "I've never been more certain about anything," I replied, signing each document confidently. "For the first time in many years, I am making choices based on my own happiness, not the wishes of others." That afternoon, I received a call from Elvira, my close neighbor and collaborator. Her voice was filled with excitement. "Julieta, you have to hear this," she said. "Rebecca came to my apartment yesterday, crying uncontrollably. She begged me to tell you to come back, saying it was all a terrible misunderstanding." "And what did you tell her?" I asked. "I told her the truth, that what she said to you was unforgivable, and that if I were in your position, I would have completely disappeared. You should have seen her face when she realized that even her neighbors knew how cruel she had been to you." "Did she mention anything about the financial struggles?" I asked out of curiosity. "Oh, yes. She explained that without your support, they cannot pay the mortgage, that the bank is putting pressure on them, that David can't find a steady job, and that the children need school supplies they can't afford. Basically, she saw everything you had done for them once she lost her temper. That was exactly what I expected. She wasn't missing me as a person. She was missing my role as a provider and problem solver." "Elvira," I told her, "when someone asks about me, especially Rebecca, tell them I am dead to them, because in a way that's true. Julieta, who had always sacrificed herself for an ungrateful daughter, truly passed away on her birthday." "I understand completely," Elva responded. "And you know what? I believe that was the best way for you to have said goodbye." 3 weeks after I arrived in Switzerland, my new life began to take shape in unexpected ways. I signed up for German classes 3 times each week. I also started a watercolor painting course on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I joined a book club for expatriates that met on Sundays. For the first time in many years, my schedule was full of activities I had chosen, activities that brought me joy and helped me grow personally. What surprised me most, however, was the financial change. Without Rebecca's constant financial demands, my savings not only stayed steady, but they started to grow. The investments I made with Hairmeyer were already earning positive returns, and for the first time I could plan my financial future based solely on my own needs. On that Thursday morning, while having breakfast at my favorite cafe by the lake, I received a call from an international number I didn't recognize. I hesitated to pick up, but curiosity made me respond. "Mrs. Julietta Johnson?" a woman's voice with an American accent asked. "Yes, that's me." "Who is calling?" "My name is Sarah Williams. I work as a social worker in the Family Services Department in your hometown. I'm reaching out because we have received a concern about your well-being." My heart stopped for a moment. A concern? About what? "Your daughter, Rebecca Johnson, has filed a report claiming that you might be suffering from dementia or some loss of mental clarity, and that you've been making financial and personal decisions that could be dangerous. She also mentioned that you suddenly disappeared and are now living in uncertain conditions abroad." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Rebecca had gone so far as to involve social services, claiming I had a mental illness to undermine my decisions and force me to return. "Miss Williams," I responded firmly, "I do not suffer from dementia or any cognitive issues. I am living in Switzerland by my own choice, in a comfortable apartment with excellent medical care, and I am in perfect mental health. My daughter's accusations are entirely false. I understand your concern, Mrs. Johnson, but we need to confirm your well-being. Would it be possible to arrange a medical and psychological assessment through the American consulate in Switzerland?" "Of course," I replied without hesitation. "I am willing to undergo any tests that can prove I am in good mental shape and that I have made my decisions clearly and coherently." After arranging the details for the evaluation, I ended the call, feeling a mixture of anger and disbelief. Rebecca had crossed a line from which there's no return. Not only did she wish me dead, but now she was trying to damage my mental reputation to take back control of my money and my life. I quickly called my lawyer, Enel, who was back in my hometown. Julieta greeted me with concern. "I'm glad to hear your voice. I've had a very interesting week with your daughter." "I imagine so," I replied. "I just spoke with social services. Rebecca is accusing me of having dementia." "That's not all," Enel sighed. "She also hired another lawyer to challenge all the legal changes you made before you left." "She claims I wasn't of sound mind when I signed them," I asked. "She can try," Enel replied, "but she doesn't have a strong legal case. I have recordings of all our conversations where you show complete clarity. Plus, the fact that you carefully planned your departure and are now living independently in Switzerland contradicts any claims of cognitive decline. What else is she doing? She has attempted to access your bank accounts, claiming to be concerned for your well-being. She also tried to halt the process of reclaiming the house. However, since everything is legally documented and she herself signed the papers, acknowledging that David lost his job again, she has no valid grounds. It was astonishing how far Rebecca was willing to go to regain the financial benefits she had lost. "Enel, I want you to prepare a defamation lawsuit against my daughter. Her false accusations about my mental state could harm my reputation and legal rights." "It would be my pleasure," Ansel responded with satisfaction. "After seeing how she has treated you, I believe it's time for her to face the legal consequences of her actions." 2 days later, I went to the American consulate in Zurich to undergo medical and psychological evaluations. The American doctor who examined me was an older, experienced man who quickly understood the situation. "Mrs. Johnson," he told me after a thorough 3-hour assessment, "not only are you in excellent mental health, but the choices you've made show clear thinking and bravery. Your daughter appears to be trying to influence the legal system to gain financial benefits. That will be officially recorded." "Certainly." "I will send a detailed report to social services stating that her claims are without merit and that you are living independently and healthily in Switzerland." That same afternoon, I received a call from the social worker. "Mrs. Johnson, we have received the medical report from the consulate. It clearly shows that your daughter's accusations are unfounded. We will close the case and inform Rebecca that her complaints were without basis." "Thank you," I replied. "Will this be recorded somewhere?" "Yes, it will be noted that she made a false report about a family member's health, which could have legal consequences if she does it again." "That's clear." Rebecca had not only failed to overturn my decisions, but also now had an official record of submitting false complaints. That night, I decided to do something I had been delaying. I wrote an open letter sharing my entire experience, not for Rebecca, but to reach other mothers who might be going through similar situations of manipulation and emotional abuse from adult children. I spent 4 hours writing, detailing every sacrifice I had made, each manipulation I endured, and all the steps I took to restore my dignity and reclaim my life. It was a 20-page letter I titled, "When a Mother's Love Becomes Self-Destruction, My Story of Liberation at 72. I decided to send my story to an online blog I had found, which focused on the experiences of older women who had gathered the courage to make significant changes in their lives. A week later, I received an encouraging reply from the editor. Julieta wrote, "Your story is powerful and inspiring. We've received hundreds of comments from women who completely see themselves in your experience. Would you be willing to do a video interview for our YouTube channel?" I agreed right away. It was the moment to share my story to help other women caught in harmful family situations. The interview was posted 2 weeks afterward and quickly gained many viewers. Thousands of women shared similar stories of adult children who emotionally manipulated and financially exploited them. The comments were full of pain but also recognition. "My 40-year-old son lives in my home, doesn't pay rent, and yells at me when I ask him to find a job." A woman once shared, "My daughter only calls me when she needs money for her vacations, but she never has time to visit me when I'm sick." Another person added, "I thought I was the only mother who felt used by her own children," and a third person admitted the same. However, the most moving message arrived a week after the interview was published. I received an email from an address I immediately recognized. It was David, my former son-in-law. "Julieta," he wrote, "I saw your interview on YouTube. I want you to know that I completely agree with you. What Rebecca said to you was unforgivable, and the way she has treated you over the years is unacceptable." He added, "I have personally seen how she manipulates and uses you, but I never had the courage to speak up because we were so dependent on your financial support." He finished by saying, "I want you to understand that the children miss you very much, and they don't understand why you no longer come to see them. Rebecca has told them that you're unwell and unable to visit, but I believe they should know the truth when they are older." The email concluded with, "I know it's probably too late for apologies, but I wanted you to understand that at least one person in this family recognizes how badly we treated you and how much you sacrificed for us. I hope you find happiness in your new life." I read the email 3 times before choosing how to reply. At last, I wrote, "David, I appreciate your honesty, but apologies after the damage has been done don't undo what happened. I hope this experience helps you become a better husband and father, and that you teach your children to appreciate those who love them before it's too late." It was the first time someone in my family had openly acknowledged the abuse I endured. While it didn't change my decision to stay away, it gave me a sense of validation I had needed for many years. My new life in Switzerland was growing in ways I had never expected. I finally had friends who appreciated me for who I am, not for what I could provide. I had hobbies and passions I had long forgotten. I felt peaceful, secure financially, and most importantly, I retained my dignity. 6 months after moving here, my life had taken a shape I had never imagined. It was a lovely spring morning when I received a call that would bring about another change. It was Alvara, my close neighbor and trusted confidant. "Julieta," she said cheerfully, "you must hear this. Rebecca lost the house." My heart paused briefly. Despite everything, a part of me still worried about my grandchildren's safety. I asked, "What exactly happened?" She explained, "The bank foreclosed on the mortgage last week. David couldn't secure a steady job. They fell behind on their payments, and because you are a co-signer and are exercising your legal rights, the bank moved forward with the foreclosure. Rebecca came to me yesterday crying uncontrollably. The kids are doing well. They have moved into a small apartment on the other side of town. David has finally found a job in a factory, earning much less than before, but at least it's a steady income. Rebecca had to return to work as well. It was strange to experience a mixture of feelings. I didn't feel happiness about their hardships, but rather a deep sense of justice. For the first time, Rebecca and David were facing the real consequences of their choices without anyone coming to their rescue. "Is there anything else?" Elvivara asked. Rebecca inquired if I knew how to reach you. She said she wants to sincerely apologize and that she now fully understands everything she lost when she lost you. And what did you tell her? I explained that some wounds run too deep to heal and that certain words can never be taken back. I also told her that you are thriving in your new life and that it's probably better for both of you if she doesn't try to contact you." Alvaro was right. Over these 6 months, I had found a sense of inner peace that I didn't want to jeopardize by trusting empty promises from a daughter who had repeatedly shown she only valued me when she needed something. That afternoon, I received an unexpected call from my lawyer, Enel. "Julieta, I have some good news." He said, "Rebecca's house has finally been sold by the bank, and since you were the co-signer, you are entitled to recover your initial investment of $150,000, plus the accumulated interest." "How much is that altogether?" $185,000. The bank has already approved the transfer. The funds will be in your Swiss account next week." It was hard to believe. Not only did I recover my original investment, but I also made an extra $5,000. Money that would have been lost forever if I had continued to put my family's needs ahead of my own. "There's something else I want to share." Anil said, "Your apartment in your hometown has finally sold. After all the costs and commissions, the net amount is $95,000. So, altogether, I was now receiving nearly $300,000 in assets that I had thought were lost forever. With my savings and the investments I had made in Switzerland, my total net worth now exceeded $500,000. At 72 years old, I was wealthier than I'd ever been before. That evening, I celebrated at my favorite lakeside restaurant. I ordered French champagne and raised a glass to the brave woman who had found the courage to start anew when everything seemed hopeless. As I enjoyed my meal, I reflected on the whole journey. I had begun this path feeling broken and humiliated, hurt by the harsh words of an unappreciative daughter, but now I was an independent woman, financially secure, surrounded by true friends, and living the life I had always imagined. The following day, I chose to act on an idea I had been contemplating for weeks. I decided to write a complete book about my experience. It would not only tell my story, but also serve as a practical guide for older women caught in harmful family relationships. I reached out to a Swiss publisher that specializes in self-help and personal development books. The editor, a woman named Brigitte, showed immediate interest. During our meeting, Julieta, she told me, "Your story addresses a subject that impacts millions of women but is rarely discussed openly. Emotional abuse by adult children is a widespread problem that must be brought into the light." I then spent the next 3 months writing When Love Hurts, Freeing Yourself from Family Emotional Abuse After 70. The book not only shared my personal journey, but also offered practical advice on how to identify manipulation, establish healthy boundaries, and summon the courage to prioritize one's own well-being. 8 months after its release, the book became a bestseller in several European countries. The responses I received from readers were truly moving. Women from across the globe wrote to share how my story had inspired them to make significant changes in their own lives. Maria from Spain told me, "I read your book and finally understood that I am not a bad mother for refusing to continue funding my 35-year-old son's irresponsible behavior." Carmen from Mexico also reached out and said, "Your story helped me realize that true love does not require self-sacrifice." After reading my book, one woman sold her large house and moved into a modest apartment she could afford without relying on her children's support. For the first time in years, she found peace and sleep peacefully. Rosa from Argentina shared her story, but the letter that touched me the most arrived a year after the book was published. It was from a young mother named Andrea. "Mrs. Johnson," she wrote, "I am 30 years old and have a mother who is 65. She has dedicated her entire life to me and my siblings. After reading your book, I realized that we have been treating her exactly as Rebecca treated you. Your story helped me see clearly and understand that I was repeating a harmful pattern that could ruin my relationship with my mother forever. Yesterday, I rang my mom and apologized for taking her for granted all those years. I also told her that I want to support her in pursuing her own dreams, instead of always expecting her to be available for mine. Thank you for helping me see this before it was too late." That letter brought tears of happiness to my eyes. My pain had served a purpose, preventing other families from experiencing the same heartbreak. 2 years after I moved to Switzerland, I received a handwritten letter in my mailbox. The handwriting on the envelope looked familiar, but I couldn't quite place it at first. When I finally opened it, my heart skipped a beat. It was from my grandchildren, who were now 12 years old. "Dear Grandma Julieta," they wrote in childlike writing, "Dad told us the truth about why you left. He explained that Mom said some very hurtful things to you, which is why you decided to start a new life away from us. We want you to know that we miss you very much and that we understand why you left. We also want you to know that we are proud of you for being so brave. When we grow older, we would love to visit you in Switzerland if you want us to. We love you so much, Grandma. The letter was signed by both twins, along with drawings they made of me happily living in the Swiss mountains. I cried for an hour after reading that letter, not out of sadness, but because I understood that my choice to keep my dignity was the right one, even if it meant distancing myself from those I loved. I decided to write them back. My dear grandchildren, I wrote, your words are the most wonderful gift I have received in years. I love you deeply and always will, no matter how far apart we are. When you grow older and can make your own choices, the doors to my heart and my home will always be open to you. Until then, I want you to know that your grandma is living a full and happy life, surrounded by beauty and peace. Hold on to the love you feel for me, but also take something positive from this experience. Words have the power to build up or tear down, and relationships must be based on mutual respect, not on one-sided sacrifices. I love you with all my heart. Today, 3 years after that heartbreaking birthday that changed my life forever, I sit on my balcony in Zurich, gazing at the mountains while I write the final words of my story. I am now 75 years old, with assets exceeding $600,000, a best-selling book titled Dear Friends from All Over the World, and a sense of inner peace I never imagined I would regain. Rebecca asked me, as a birthday gift, to disappear from her life. I granted her that wish in the most remarkable way I could. What she never realized was that by losing me, she not only lost a mother who loved her unconditionally, but also the person who had maintained her financial stability for many years. My disappearance was my gift to her. My new life, however, was my gift to myself. It was worth every tear, every sacrifice, and every moment of pain that brought me to this place. Sometimes the only way to save yourself is to have the courage to completely lose who you are, so you can be reborn as the person you were always meant to become. Did you enjoy my story? Which city are you listening from? Please share in the comments. If you liked what you heard, you can support me by sending a super thanks, allowing me to continue sharing more stories like this. Thank you very much for your kind support. I look forward to reading your comments about the story. On the screen, you'll see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There is much more to discover on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect.